Good evening, servants and meat puppets. Vincent K. Evil here, and tonight I have a familiar tale of sin and delicious violence. This is not one of those pathetic stories where the good guys win, or some sort of flowery moral is rammed down your throat. No, this is one of my favorite tales of my exploit, one where I could finally cut loose. So sit back and enjoy your descent into the euphoric embrace, pure unfiltered mayhem, which I call familiar. Our tale begins on the outskirts of a small royal community in the northeast. A young girl named Angela lives in a shack of a house that was left to her by her parents, who were murdered when she was a small girl. A small black cat is the only companion that Angela has to keep her company as she survives the harsh realities of her existence. One night, Angela came upon a strange old tome while looking through some of her parents' belongings in her basement. As she looked through the book, she saw all sorts of strange incantations and macabre illustrations. She became infatuated with the book and studied it constantly. Angela even tried out some of the incantations but saw no results until one night she heard a familiar voice. Yes, keep reading the book. It will teach you what you need to know.
Who's there?
You can hear me?
Yeah? Now show yourself.
I'm right here with you. I've always been with you.
Angela paused and looked down to notice her cat was staring up at her intently.
Is that you, killer? Am I going mad?
Yes, on both counts. And the name is Vincent. Angela came to accept that she was psychically linked with her cat, and he became her mentor, as well as her best friend. As she grew into a young adult, she grew restless with her situation. Merely surviving was not enough. She wanted more from life. Angela would take long walks into the village to think about what she wanted and who she wanted to become. One day, on her way into town, she was confronted by a teenage boy.
Why don't you go back to the graveyard where you belong?
I suggest you back off.
The boy did just that, but the malevolent gaze never left her as she walked away. That night, Angela told Vincent about the encounter. Yes, people are cruel. They are innately animals who should be taught their place.
And how do you suggest we do that?
Wait here, girl. I'll get what you need. Vincent quickly ran out the door and returned a few minutes later carrying a knife in his maw. He dropped the knife on the kitchen counter. You see, people are all talk, but very rarely take action. This is where you have the advantage. Use this to end it quickly. Strike first and without hesitation, and they will never see it coming. A cold smile ran across Angela's face as she picked up the knife. A few days later, the same boy confronted Angela on her path to town.
We don't like devil worshippers in our town. Stay away, witch.
The boy moved in close to Angela with the familiar malevolent look in his eyes. Angela stared directly in his cold eyes and smiled. Without a second thought, Angela brought the knife from her hip pocket and across the boy's throat. The evil gaze in the boy's eyes quickly turned to shock and horror as he gasped and choked. Angela continued to smile as the boy fell to the ground, gargling in a pool of his own blood. Angela then went about her way into town. The town was full of people who did not look real to Angela. She came across some girls her age who she thought could be useful. Carol, a blonde, and Gwen, a redhead. Both girls were young and beautiful, and most importantly, impressionable. It wasn't long before they were dressing like Angela and skipping out on classes to study the grim tome alongside her. Angela explained her link with Vincent, and they easily accepted him as their new mentor. Angela studied old languages and script until she could decipher every word of the ancient book.
Here it is. This is a ritual that imbues the user with an unlimited source of power and knowledge. It says we need to provide sacrifices, the soul of a man of influence.
Angela looked at her two beautiful friends and smiled.
You know what to do. Lure such a man here, and I will handle the rest.
For the first time, Carol and Gwen could hear the voice of Vincent deep within their minds. Bring them, girls. Lure them with your beauty. Make yourselves useful, and you will be rewarded eternally.
Yes, Master.
It wasn't long before the girls brought home a man of great influence. As soon as he crossed the threshold into the house, Angela was ready with a baseball bat. He was out cold in an instant. Angela then made quick work of him. She prepared a binding ritual to anchor his soul into a crystal. That night, Angela called the girls together to perform the ritual. The elements of nature greeted the girls as lightning crashed and the wind howled around them. The soul crystal emanated a ghostly yellow light that cast upon the faces of the girl. As the ritual continued, Gwen and Carol began to feel sick. They felt as if the life was being drained from them. The same familiar cold smile crept across Angela's face. The storm around them became more violent as Angela cackled.
I can feel it. It's all around us. It's mine. Mine to harness.
Carol and Gwen fell to the ground as their essence left them. You made me proud, girl. You treated those who cared about you as pawns in your own game. You betrayed their trust. You knew every word in the incantation, the sacrifice of the two virgins.
People are innately animals. You taught me that. They followed me to the slaughter, just like the sheep they were.
Indeed. Now what are you going to do about them?
Angela looked over the horizon and saw a large mob of townsfolk armed with guns and torches coming her way.
You didn't think they were going to look the other way when you killed the boy along the road and just left him there as evidence? Or did you think they wouldn't look for the man you slaughtered?
A familiar cold smile formed upon Angela's face. Lightning crashed and struck the center of the town.
Well played. The mob ceased and turned, and a look of horror struck them all as they ran and put out the flames. It was too late. The town burned throughout the night until there was only ash and debris left. The police later investigated Angela's house, but never found any clues as to where she went. Angela became one of the most notorious killers the world has ever known, traveling from city to city with her small black cat close behind her. There you have it, folks. The portrait of a killer. A small black cat and his faithful human slave. Angela was a great student who became an even better killer. It's a tale that's all too familiar.